telling me you're telling me people in this country can't afford a 50p toothbrush?
Yes.
Where? Who? Why?
7.4 million households.
What happens when right-wing radio presenters weaponize pedantry and bad faith interrogation to downplay the growing reality of child poverty? You get the exact spectacle that played out on Nick Ferrari's broadcast. Ferrari aggressively grilled a progressive campaigner, demanding hyper-specific statistical breakdowns in a deliberate attempt to dismiss official poverty figures and label well-documented economic hardship as fake. Instead of confronting the devastating real-world impacts of 14 years of conservative austerity, which left millions of families struggling with soaring living costs and inadequate social safety nets, right-wing commentators turned to rhetorical games. By picking apart minor definition details and shouting down any attempt to explain how relative poverty and cost of living metrics are measured, hosts like Nick Ferrari attempt to insulate their audience from economic reality. Let's look at how this intense broadcast exchange played out. This video breaks down the key moments, the arguments, and the questions everyone is talking about. Watch until the end and tell me what you think in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update.
If you would, Alfie, the work that you and your colleagues have done, and more importantly, the findings that you've discovered. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I mean, look, I think the work, I'm afraid, shows us the depth of the national emergency that we're in right now. I mean, the focus from government on cost of living has not come a moment too soon. We do this survey. We started it in the cost of living crisis just following the pandemic, so 4.5 years ago. We conduct the same study twice a year. So that's 9 times now over the last 4.5 years. What we found in May and June, which is the most recent study, was that the number of people who are going without essential items, that's things like having enough food, having appropriate clothing, basic toiletries, hot water, people that are not having those things, has now risen to the highest levels on record across all of those surveys. So 7.4 million people, but each one of those
7.4 million people haven't got toiletries.
7.4 million households are skipping.
I see.
Are skipping one of a number of basic things, whether that's enough food, whether it's appropriate clothing, as I mentioned.
Yes. When you say toiletries, what are we talking about there, Mr. Sterling?
It's toothpaste, it's shampoo, the sorts of things that we use as basic toiletries.
I mean, you know how much toothpaste costs, I assume, do you?
So, Nick, are you suggesting that, are you sort of saying that these numbers aren't right? Are you saying that the study that's taken place for the last 4.5 years...
Just essentials as does toothpaste is 45p. How much cheaper do you want it to be?
But if you're in debt, your income doesn't cover your outgoings, you have to not have something. I mean, that's what this research shows. So people have to forego something. Say again, sorry, Nick.
How has that person got in debt?
The most basic reason why people are not in debt is because the cost of living is higher than the income they have.
Well, I've just told you can get toothpaste for 45p. A bar of soap at Asda costs you 35p, and I can get you 2 toothbrushes at the pound shop for £1. So we've had a nice wash and we brushed our teeth. Why don't we go out and get a job?
So, of course, many of these people are in work.
Right.
I mean, that's precisely...
Well, then you're going to be able to afford 2 toothbrushes, aren't you, for £1 at the pound shop?
Not if your housing costs...
You're telling me people in this country can't afford a 50p toothbrush?
Yes.
Where? Who? Why?
7.4 million households.
7.4 million households in this country, Mr. Sterling, cannot afford a 50p toothbrush.
And that's precisely why I think it should be an emergency. And actually, the government is recognising that with the policies they're now beginning to put out. It's going to be really important to see that they
I don't
are
wish to
more
cause
than
any
just words,
personal
more than
offence because I respect enormously what you and your colleagues at the Joseph Rowntree Foundation are doing, but I'm just not buying it. I'm just not buying that 7.4 million
Nick,
households can't afford a 50p toothbrush. In fact, I've just been told that I can get you a 25p toothbrush at Asda. So, you're telling me, and I respect you enormously, your company enormously, your foundation, I'm sorry, that you are telling me there are 7.4 million households in Britain who can't afford a 25p toothbrush. Where does their money go?
If you only have £5 and you need £6, that means you're £1 short, Nick.
Well, where's that £5 go?
What I'm afraid what we're having here, which is we do get quite a lot of, is not a reflection of the study, but it's people with an ideological
No, I think it's an analysis of the
responding to it.
figures that you put out, I would put it to you. That
But
when
you're
you
not
come out with
analysing.
these,
You're
which are
not-
very
but-
disturbing figures, it's not unfair
Yeah,
that a
they
journalist
are.
would challenge you and say, well, hold on a second, what precisely can't they afford? And I'm told they can't afford soap and shower gel. And then I say, well, I can get you shower gel from Sainsbury's for 35p.
Yeah, and you can get potatoes for 80p. But the point is, these things all add up, and if people haven't got sufficient income to cover all of those items, they have to go without some of those items. So just being able to pick out one particular item and say, "Oh, that's 80p, that's £1.50."
Well, I did ask you what the
I'm
items
afraid
were,
it's not
and
serious. It's not a serious journalistic response, Nick.
I'm
because
grateful for you. I'm grateful for your analysis of my journalistic abilities, and grateful for your time too as well. Alfie Sterling is economist and director of policy at the Joseph Rowntree Foundation. This is what you're saying. Nick Ferrari, you're completely out of touch, sitting behind a high salary. And an entitled lifestyle, and you're pooing the plight of ordinary workers. Alex in Blackheath, on your wage, your lifestyle, how can you comment on many of us who are struggling? This is serious. The cost of...
What played out in this 8-minute segment on LBC is a classic demonstration of how right-wing media personalities use aggressive badgering and statistical pedantry to erase the lived realities of economic hardship in Britain today. Nick Ferrari's hostility toward a progressive campaigner highlight a well-worn broadcasting playbook. Dismiss verified social scientific data. Label structural poverty advocacy as woke, and bully guests when they attempt to discuss systemic inequality. First, examine the intellectual dishonesty behind the right-wing attack on poverty metrics. Right-wing commentators routinely try to undermine legitimate social research by attacking the concept of relative child poverty, a standard metric used by the UN, the UK government, and economic institutes worldwide. By hyperfixating on semantic details or demanding instantaneous memory recalls of complex data breakdowns live on air, hosts like Ferrari create a false impression that the underlying problem doesn't exist. They attempt to replace rigorous, peer-reviewed data from food banks and charities with individual cynicism, framing any attempt to address wealth inequality as ideological wokeness. Second, consider the performative dynamic of these morning radio shows. Presenters like Nick Ferrari operate with a clear home court advantage. They control the microphone, decide when to interrupt, and use sensationalized framing to make any progressive guest appear ill-prepared or evasive. When a guest attempts to give a nuanced explanation of how poverty intersects with housing costs, wage stagnation, and inflation, the host cuts them off, accuses them of using fake stats, and demands simple yes or no answers to complex sociological questions. This isn't genuine journalism or accountability. It is performative theater designed to reassure a conservative audience that social inequality is merely a myth invented by left-wing activists. Furthermore, this reaction masks the real legacy of right-wing economic policy over the last decade and a half. Years of severe public sector cuts, wage stagnation, rising housing costs, and the dismantling of community support networks have pushed hundreds of thousands of children into genuine distress. Rather than confronting how conservative economic ideology contributed to this widespread crisis, right-wing media outlets find it far easier to attack the messengers, charities, campaigners, and progressive advocates who highlight the numbers. As progressives and defenders of economic justice, we must reject these bad faith attempts to dismiss real human suffering. Poverty is not a debate over political buzzwords or trivial semantic traps. It is a structural issue with real-world consequences for working families and children across the country. Standing up for facts, economic fairness, and a robust social safety net remains essential in counteracting right-wing media denialism.